I vote yes to this bill and in favour of marriage equality for the 68.9% of people in my electorate who did stare down this government's divisive campaign around marriage equality and did exercise a vote in favour. The Bendigo electorate result was higher than the national result, was higher than the Victorian state result. And after this agonising and divisive campaign, our result was a real victory for people in our community for coming together to say we are going to stand with the LGBTIQ community and stand with them and vote to demonstrate to the government just how supportive and inclusive we are. Our result in Bendigo was similar to many regional electorates. And I was asked by some in the media, was I surprised by the result? And the answer was no. Because like a good MP, I've chatted to people in my community. Since being elected, surveys, petitions, conversations, the community made its mind up to support marriage equality in my electorate a long time ago. The information, the conversations that we'd had at our street stalls, people who had never, ever, ever engaged in politics said, I'm voting yes. I'm telling you I'm voting yes. I'm also telling you I'm very disappointed in the Prime Minister. People who support the Liberal and the National Party. Unfortunately, my result in the Bendigo electorate is not 68.9%. We know that members of the Liberal and the National Party, or voters for them, supported marriage equality. But we didn't need to have a survey to know that. It states very clearly in our Constitution that it is the role of this parliament. It is the role of this place under Section 51 of the Constitution to define the Marriage Act. Whilst the overwhelming Australians have voted in favour of changing the law, they didn't actually get to change the law, not like in other countries. The fight isn't over, and it is now up to all of us to do our job. I vote yes for every member of the LGBTI community who had to endure the attacks physically and verbally as a result of this marriage. I vote in favour of this bill for the Headspace workers in Bendigo, for the workers at the Bendigo Hospital, for all the people in the mental health sector who provide support to our LGBTI community that felt quite confronted and victimised by this survey. I vote yes for the activists in my electorate, the Bendigo Says Yes Committee, and in particular Ethan, Harry, Tash, Nat and Tash, Harry and Nat, who are here today in the gallery. I acknowledge them for their efforts. I can remember when I messaged Harry, I was sitting in this place and I said, we now have to go through with the survey. We should talk to Luke at Bendigo Trades Hall about getting a committee together. And he said, already onto it. He just reacted and organised and pulled together a great Yes campaign. I also acknowledge the Castlemaine Says Yes crew and the Kyneton Says Yes crew, Rainbow Labor and Central Victorian Labor branches who help support the street stalls, the motions and the on-the-ground support. I acknowledge the great community organisations in my electorate like Cobor Health and the Macedon Rangers and Haven Home Safe, without a doubt said we are with you and we stand with you, and we're a big part of the campaign locally. We had to confront the misinformation and we did so honestly and frankly. I also did want to acknowledge the efforts of my office. Outside of work hours on weekends, they got involved in the Yes campaign, not because I asked them, but they believed in the campaign and their campaign issues. I vote yes today for all the small businesses in my electorate who've expressed support for marriage equality over the years. In 2015, the big businesses of Australia took out an ad to say that they support marriage equality. In my own electorate, they decided, well, let's do the same. And led by a local cafe owner, 21 businesses took out a full-page ad in the Saturday Bendigo Advertiser to say that they support marriage equality. They were the first regional community to do so. Now, there were one or two that said that they will now boycott these businesses because they supported marriage equality. It didn't matter because every single one of the cafes was full. People bought clothing because they were so proud to go shop in a business that supported marriage equality. It really helped show our community how committed we were to inclusion. I vote yes for our local media who've been part of telling the Bendigo and Central Victorian story, and in particular Bendigo Addy journalist Mark Kearney from the Bendigo Advertiser, for his positive and inclusive coverage. Mark spoke to me about how this was very hard for him, being part of the LGBTI community, to continue to be independent and impartial on an issue that was so personal to him. But Mark, like the rest of the Bendigo media, did an outstanding job to make sure they told the story. I vote yes for all the schools and school students who've raised this issue with me since being elected. St Killian, St Joey's, Bendigo Catholic College, Girton Grammar, Bendigo Senior, Bendigo South East College, just to name a few, that when I asked the students, if you were Prime Minister of this country, what would you do? And they've all said that their priority would be marriage equality. In fact, in this place not that long ago, Catholic college students that were here held their own vote up on the Queen's Terrace. When put to the question, would they support marriage equality, they all voted yes, and asked that we in this place would do so as well. I vote yes for friends on Facebook who've wrote comments in the last 24 hours about why they support marriage equality. For Marie, who said, "My family welcomes this bill because at long last our son Sean and his husband Brad will be equal and legal when they come to live in Australia." For Melissa, Reverend of the Anglican Parish of Woodend, in fact all of our Anglican parishes, who said, "Many religious leaders in your electorate are fine with this bill as it is. Many of us voted yes and will be proud when all people are equal under the law." For Chris and Peter and all their friends and family who will be thrilled at the prospect that they could be married next year. I also vote yes for friends and family. Like many in this place, this is a personal debate, and they've shared how this law will affect friends and family. I vote yes for Catherine and Erin and their beautiful little girl. For all of the United Voice babies. Shortly after I left United Voice, there was a bit of a baby boom. 4 babies that were born, 4 women that were on maternity leave, equal in every way, except for 2 of the couples. They didn't have the choice about marriage, and through this debate, their relationship has now been put on show. Hopefully, those children will never have to know the debate that their parents had to go through. I vote yes for good friends Maddie and Shane. Recently, when my partner Matt and I caught up with them, we were talking about how this debate has affected them. They're older, they came out in the 80s when it wasn't popular to do so, when they faced a lot of discrimination, and how this debate brought up for them a lot of old memories. It also brought up a lot of challenges in a community and in a society, and with friends and family, debates they shouldn't have had to have. They've been together for 15 years. And I look at their relationship and go, I just hope that so many other Australians can have that kind of wonderful, loving and respectful relationship that they have. Now, they may never choose to get married, but if we pass this bill, it's a choice that they get to have, just like Matt and I could have. Matt and Shane should be able to have the same choice. I grew up in a household where my parents were not happily married. Marriage, yes, but not happy. There was not love. As a teenager, this did affect my views on marriage, and people who knew me as a teenager would be probably quite surprised that I'm now very supportive of marriage. When I was young, because it wasn't a happy household, I saw marriage as a prison sentence, trapping wives and children in unhappy marriages, unsafe marriages, and quite fixed gender roles. It wasn't until later in life, when I started to attend the weddings of good friends, that I realised that marriage today is about love. Love is love, and that is why I support marriage equality. I vote yes today because, like many on the Labor side, I believe that marriage equality is a human right. It is about equity before the law. Across central Victoria and the electorate of Bendigo, an area that I am so proud to represent in this place, I vote yes today for all of the local businesses, for the religious and the community leaders who have stood and said it's time, vote yes. For the advocacy groups, for the individuals, for all the young people who many years ago signed the petitions and started the campaigns, I vote yes for them. They have declared publicly and loudly that they support marriage equality and that it's time. It's time for all of us in this place to respect them and their values, and it is time that we voted yes.
I thank the member for her contribution. The question is now that the amendments be agreed to, and